Alle bitte nach vorne zum Gruppenfoto. Ein Gruppenbild.
jetzt schon tiefer, dass ich sowieso schon Pläne hier.
Nein.
Ja, da bist du. Das ist wie Kindergarten.
Dear friends, hallo, liebe Freunde, wir wollen losmachen.
We would like to start.
Hello.
Okay. Dear friends and colleagues, dear members of the European Parliament, I welcome you to that event. We are talking today about the medical crisis in Gaza, the blockade of EU assistance on medical aid, evacuation, or on-site treatment. These are two sides of the same medal. I'm very happy that my colleagues are here. I'm very happy that guests are here. And I have to say now some things in German, only a few sentences. Ihr Lieben, schön, dass ihr da seid.
I'm going to say just a few sentences in German. Thank you for being here. I'm using a German proverb to express that you should say what's true. That's why I'm here today, and that's why we're going to speak to each other frankly and openly.
Of this discussion. On my right side is Maria Zuber. She is head of the unit of emergency response operations in the ECHO General Directorate. ECHO is the abbreviation for European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Organization. On my left,
Wir sprechen, um daran nochmals zu erinnern, über die
in advance that we are now preparing a letter to our parliamentarian colleagues at the Knesset to ask for help in that issue. We have a list of presentations, and we will start with Maria from the ECHO Directorate-General to make the point on the issue of the evacuation, because evacuation of patients is one side of the medal of this medical crisis. The other one is the on-site treatment of patients there. We are talking about patients who have the patients who survived till now. Their injuries are patients with injuries of the extremities, and complex limb reconstruction is one of the major issues for the on-site treatment. That is the second part. The first part is discussion and demonstration about the situation on the evacuation. Maria, I'm very happy that you are here. Thank you for taking your time. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and very happy to be here. I presented a couple of slides to illustrate a little bit more the story of struggle that the EU is doing to help those in need. What I want to say that while you put it evacuation or on-site treatment, I think it's not either or question. In this very difficult situation, we need both, and we need every single tool and every single effort to get a little bit of help. We know that it's very difficult, and there are a lot of constraints. There are constraints of access, there are constraints on security, geopolitical constraints. And we are working, we need to understand that we are working in this context and don't get, let's say, challenged, but still try to do that. And on the next slide, you will see that indeed we, in the European Commission, in the Emergency Response Coordination Center, are trying to coordinate and support member states in many, many different things. We are trying to bring in-kind assistance both to Gaza, but also to countries, neighboring countries, that also received a lot of people, in particular at the beginning, from Gaza. There are a lot of Palestinian patients that are treated in Egypt, and we are trying to support both those strands. And indeed, as you mentioned, there is the pathway of medical treatment, so not only in-kind assistance, but medical treatment. Of course, our dream would be that we can rebuild the medical health system in Gaza, and we had a little bit of drop in that as well. But then indeed we have the medical treatment that we offer in Europe, and Dr. Arafat will speak about very specific case of Romania, because Romania is one of the very active member states in that. But then also, we also tried to rebuild what was before October 23, the treatment in West Bank. Here, we have very little tools, but we are trying as well, and that's for advocacy. And I will tell you about two of the three tools that we use in the European Union, notably the Union Civil Protection Mechanism and Relief EU. And then my colleague Beatrice, she will focus on humanitarian aid. So we have really three different tools that we are trying to mobilize. Let's go to the next slide, and I will tell you a little bit what the Union Civil Protection Mechanism is and how it works. It's a tool that allows for solidarity to be shown by all member states. It's a tool that allows for the EU member states and participating states in the mechanism to assist those in need in a coordinated manner with the EU financial support. So how does it work? When the disaster happens, and disaster can be natural disaster, but here we are talking about man-made, and that also qualifies for a disaster. And this overwhelms a government, in this particular case, authority that really struggles there. That authority, or in case of a Palestinian authority that really struggles, a UN agency can request for assistance. This request for assistance comes to Brussels, to our operational center that works 24/7, and we immediately distribute it to all EU member states and 10 participating states that, well, I will not tell all who are they, but Norway, that also is very active in medevac, but also Turkey, Western Balkans. We immediately share that with these 37 countries, so that is very useful because they don't need to ask everyone separately. They just send the request to us, and we will mobilize and we will share this request. And then EU member states and participating states can see whether they want to offer on voluntary basis, whether they want to offer the assistance or personnel or equipment, and then we will support. I'm still on the previous slide, but so don't don't look at this one. And then we will coordinate the dispatch of this assistance. We will also support financially. We will coordinate logistics, and we will deploy experts. It can be in-kind assistance, including medical equipment, or indeed we can also organize medevac evacuations. And we will be doing it all from Brussels to allow really coordinated approach. And then now the next slide is the other tool that ERCC is using is the Relief EU. The Relief EU is a tool that supports humanitarian partners with funding or capacities to deliver principled assistance. We have our own stockpiles in different locations, covering different sectors. You might have heard about humanitarian air bridges. So we have the broken contract with companies that can quickly mobilize big cargo planes, and they can fly and deliver this assistance. So we can also rent warehouses. So there is this logistical capacity as well. And we also have under that tool experts. In particular case of Gaza, the stockpiles were used, as well as the warehousing and the air bridges. And I will talk about that a little bit later. So let's go step by step. The next one is the in-kind support. I mentioned to you in-kind support. I think you know very well how difficult it is to bring something into Gaza, and in particular medical equipment, because it is considered as dual use and very often is blocked. So with the UCPM, member states are really willing to offer equipment, medicines, but we are not getting there. We try to use all pathways. You might remember the big initiative started in 24, the Cyprus Maritime Corridor. We tried, we didn't succeed. And so that was very complicated. But that's what we could do is indeed support Egypt. Egypt requested for assistance in October, and you can see 11 EU member states offered medical equipment and medicines to Egypt. Egypt very often updates this request, and member states are offering to Egypt. Now with the opening of Rafah, we might see again bigger inflows, and we will be supporting Egypt as well. Then we also mobilize our own stocks, as you could see. And now we can try to go to another slide, Relief EU. As I said, it's difficult government-to-government support, so in the Relief EU, we are trying to mobilize these stocks and organize air bridges and deliver them to humanitarian partners, mostly in case of when we talk about medical, it's WHO. You see that we supported transport of 5,500 metric tons since October. It's true. Many of it was stuck in Al Arish, so on the other side, and it's there in boxes in warehouses. We also tried to use the maritime corridor to bring it in, and we are still trying. We are still trying, and something works. Not enough, but it works. On the next slide, you just will see that out of these deliveries, 38% of the transported cargo was medical and health items, and 38 of those humanitarian air bridges were in partnership with WHO. Again, I don't know exactly how much of it entered Gaza, but it's there, it's ready to be entered. So whenever we manage to advocate for bigger access, that is something that is ready to enter. So there is hope, there is material, there is medicines. It's just now we need to advocate for bigger access, and Beatrice will tell you more because they are working even with the partners that are less strong, because WHO still has its big position. So that was the in-kind assistance that indeed we see that there are a lot of constraints. On the next slide, what you will see now, our small drop of input to the on-site treatment. We couldn't, due to security and due to also lack of access to our EU personnel, we could not access Gaza ourselves. Our Directorate-General is actually repeatedly requesting this access for persons as well. Our office in Gaza is not anymore there. We don't have people inside. But what we got a request from WHO to support their coordination from Cairo for the medical team's deployment. And indeed, we deployed 36 experts from January to November to 2024 to support capacities of WHO from Cairo, to also to teach, to pass this expertise. Then later on, WHO managed to beef up its own team. And again, impact, is it much or not? It's not enough. But you can see that thanks to that, in those months, the teams that were supported by the coordination cell in Cairo that managed to enter on a very erratic basis, and sometimes they were entering, sometimes not, still, what they managed to do is to do 2 million consultations over that, over 30,000 surgeries, and 7,000 births. So that's, all, again, a little bit, a drop in the ocean, but there was some support from our side. And then let's go to the next slide and let's talk about medevac, because again, the system is very weak. And medevac is important for cases that are life-threatening, in life-threatening stage, or where the system, there is no appropriate treatment for these cases. So in this case, in these specific things, we will try to offer the treatment in Europe. On our side, under the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, we will coordinate, as I mentioned, the matching of needs by patients with the hospitals that can offer the treatment. We will also support transport that member states are offering. We will go also on sites. We have different corridors, but we will go on site to Jordan, to Egypt, to Israel, from where the planes are taking off, and support that. We also are supporting medical assessment teams that go to those places, not to Gaza, but those places outside of Gaza, to see whether patients are stable, that they are fit to fly, and they will also go with them all the way towards Europe. On the next slide, what I wanted to tell you that it's a very, very complex process, and it starts in Gaza. It starts with the medical doctor in Gaza that makes this first assessment whether a patient can be treated in Gaza or whether it needs needs evacuation. There you can see there's a long way that there is a referral for evacuation. The referral committee will need to approve that. And such patients, that if the patient agrees, it will go to WHO. And WHO is the organization that will propose to different countries around the world patients' medical, let's say, files for evacuation. It's not about Mr. X or Mr. Y or Z. It's about the needs. So we'll also are very careful when it comes to data protection of those patients. So basically, the doctors will get a file and then will decide on the basis of needs. I stop on the number 7 because that's where WHO submits the list to countries, and it's not only to EU countries. We have many countries around the world that are evacuating people. Emirates are the big ones that are also supporting this. Japan, Switzerland. But let's now go to the next slides where we show you how it works in Europe. So from this number 7, where WHO offers the list, it's what I told you at the very beginning. This list goes to Brussels, to us, and we can share this in CESIS to all 27 member states and 10 participating states. And is that moment where when there will be involvement of EU countries that needs to coordinate also very much, because we will have, it's a very complex situation. First of all, the Ministry of Health will need to see which hospital in Europe can offer such a treatment. Secondly, obviously, that is also something of migration policy, because we are taking third country nationals to our territories. So there is involvement of Ministry of Interior, sometimes Ministry of Defense for security reasons. There is also involvement of civil protection, because they will be the one to organize the logistics and transport and be in contact with us. Very complex process that is happening before member states will offer a bed in the hospital. And once we have an offer of the bed, we will go back to WHO and say, for patient number 257, we have this treatment in this country. And WHO will obviously check with the patient and the family, because also we are mindful of psychological needs, are taking also companions. We will offer that evacuation. And if the patient accepts, then we need to also discuss with Israel. They also do their security screening. And once the patients are screened, then we can start logistics. In Gaza, it will be WHO that will have a meeting point in one of the hospitals. It was very often our European hospital. And they will bring the people to Karem Shalom crossing point, from where they will be brought or to Ramon airports, where some military planes can land and take people out, or in cases that some member states prefer not to go with military, or they don't necessarily want to land in Israel. We have a pathway of Jordan as well, and the Jordanian corridor is the one where we will bring the patients to Jordan, and from Jordan they will be taken over. At the very beginning, when Gaza there was no possibility of exit, what we were doing, we were evacuating patients, Palestinian patients from Egypt, again, to alleviate the health system in Cairo, in Egypt, because that was also overwhelmed because so many patients left. So let's look very quickly now on the outcome of our efforts since the beginning. On the next slide, you will see that since we got the request from WHO in April 24, we had evacuated already 1,540 people, 417 patients, and over 1,000 of their companions. And you see that 3 member states and 3 participating states are the ones that are participating in that effort. On the next slide, you will see basically the same information showed slightly differently. You see that the country that takes the most patients and companions is Italy, followed by Spain and Romania. And I'm very happy that Dr. Arafat will be able to give you a very concrete example how it is done by Romania. You see the statistics. Again, the next slide, we had 1,500 people evacuated, but look, there is 18,500 patients still requiring treatment outside of Gaza. Not all of them will be able to be brought to Europe. There will be also other countries, but it's a big number. It's a big number, and the clock is ticking for their lives, and that's why we need to act, and we need to act in coordination. On the next slide, couple of just few reflections that I wanted to share with you. Again, it's about both medevac and on-site care. They are both essential. While medevac, we can reduce pressure and save the most critical cases, but of course we cannot, it is not a solution. We need to strengthen the site treatments so that they can also work. The balance between who we take and who stay, it's guided by the clinical triage. So it's the doctors there that will decide whether this patient can get the treatment or whether it is urgent. Some cases will not be evacuated because they are too serious cases and they cannot anymore fly. So really, this is something that we need to rely on the expertise of doctors that are on site. And as we said, we should scale up both, but it's very challenging, and we all know the constraints that are there. The last slide is about those that sometimes maybe not necessarily want to receive the patients, but also the other pathway. I mentioned that before the war, we had many people from Gaza being treated in West Bank and East Jerusalem, and there was a big political initiative supported by many member states. You have them there, and also by our commissioner, to also strengthen the possibility, or open the possibility, to go back to this network of hospitals in East Jerusalem, and so that patients can be treated there. And in that one as well, there was a very important call for Israel to respect these obligations under international law. And I want to finish with this slide because it's a slide about advocacy, and it's a little bit also my message to you. In this particular crisis, I think every voice counts, and that's why what we wanted to show you, what we are doing, and we would like you to amplify this message, and to, in any of your conversations, that you actually could also help us to passing this message, because I think here we cannot just be sitting and looking what is happening in the world. What we need to do is indeed to raise our voices and to amplify that we need access for in-kind assistance, we need access for doctors, for medical teams, and we also need more evacuations for cases that will not be able to be treated immediately. So that is something that I would like to ask you. Help us with amplifying this message, and with this I will stop here and go back to you.
Thank you for sharing your views and your report on your activities. The numbers you have been presenting are very shaming for a German, and lots of Germans are here, so our country plays not a good role in this issue. So I want to forward now the floor to Beatrice to go more into details regarding the situation in Gaza.
Thank you very much, and hello to everybody. I'm very also happy to be here. I have no slides, so you just will have to listen to me. And maybe I will come to, you remember the title of the session, which was like evacuation or on-site treatment. When we speak about humanitarian aid, of course, we are speaking about supporting the on-site treatment. Maybe because not everybody in the room might be very familiar with humanitarian aid, but I just want to remind everybody some very few principles when we speak about humanitarian aid. We speak about neutrality, impartiality, independence, and humanity, which is for me a given. That's very important because it means that whatever we do in a country, and in a foreign country, by the way, we need to abide by these principles to be able to do our job. And I think you referred at the beginning Certainly the Palestinian crisis, at least the one that we know since October 7, is unprecedented. I mean, I've been working more than 25 years in DG ECHO, and I've never seen such a situation with such a blockage. But what is very important, because we are supposed to be neutral, is to speak to all the parties, which means that we are, on our everyday work, also speaking to Israel. And I think that's very, very important to mention. Now, when we look at beyond the humanitarian principle, also what is very important for us to do is that maybe contrary to what our colleagues in ECHO do on the civil protection side, we do not implement ourselves. I'm a functionary, I'm not a doctor, whatever. What we are doing is to support our partners. We are working with all the humanitarian UN agencies, so including, of course, the World Health Organization. We are working with hundreds of international NGOs, and we are working also with the Red Cross movement, which are, of course, also very important in the Gaza context, in particular the Palestinian Red Crescent, which is playing a very important role. I will start by the figures so that we get rid of these ones. In terms of budget, this is not peanuts. Since October 7, meaning 2 years ago, we have provided 550 million euro of assistance in humanitarian aid to Gaza and to the West Bank. I know we are focusing today on Gaza, but I think we should not forget the situation in West Bank, which is also particularly also concerning for all of us. Just for you to know the setup, because Maria mentioned that we don't have an office in Gaza anymore, which is true. We had 2 people working in Gaza, Gazawi people, who have been evacuated and are now working from Turkey, from Ankara. So thanks to Turkey for having welcomed our colleagues. But of course, we still have an office in Jerusalem, where we are following the situation. And we have an office in Cairo, just also to be able to follow all this more logistical side of the response from Cairo and El Arish. So basically, we are looking at the situation from all these angles. When we speak about medical support, which is the subject of this, let's say that in the amount of money that I gave you, we can consider that 25% at least of this amount is going to what we would call medical health support. But let's be very clear. Medical support is about many things. You have all what we would consider as a primary health care, and then you have the secondary health care, so the hospitals and more serious cases. But you have also reproductive health, very important, and you have, even more important, I would say, nowadays, all what is mental and psychosocial support. We are confronted, I mean, every time I read a survey, for instance, questions which are asked to kids, to children, about what they see as a future, you would cry. Some of these kids are saying that they see just death as a solution. That, for them, some of them, and Maria mentioned, I mean, there were a lot of people who were born also even during these 2 years. So you can imagine these kids in the environment they are living, they don't see how to escape this. So mental support, psychosocial support is very important, of course, not only for the children, also for the rest of the population, but that's quite important. Now, as we speak, the situation, as you know, we are supposed to be in a ceasefire. The ceasefire, I was told the other day, because my Director-General, Maciej Popowski, went to Palestine last week. Someone told him it has been the loudest ceasefire we never experimented, because basically every day you still have bombing of the Gaza Strip. So, we still have a ceasefire, which means still that the situation has improved on one front at least, which is food and nutrition. For me, nutrition is also part of health and medical support, so I think that's important. It has improved, but of course, we were starting from a famine declaration, if you remember last August, so of course, it has improved, but of course, we are far from reaching what we should be doing. The health situation is particularly worrying. We are speaking about 60% of the health facilities which are not functioning. either because they've been destroyed or because they cannot function fully because they are partly destroyed. Of course, you have also the problem of health personnel. Let's not forget, this is very particular to Gaza as a humanitarian crisis, that when we speak about health personnel in Gaza and when we speak about Palestinians, in particular doctors, nurses, we are also speaking about victims of the conflict. These people are also losing their friends, their family, their home. They are also moving. They are also displaced themselves. So basically, I would say that if there is any tribute which needs to be given, it's to all these people, these Palestinian people, being doctors or being also doing something else, which are contributing to the response, while basically they should also be the beneficiary of this response. We are speaking now about the winter, and you may have seen in the news that there was a lot of flooding in the Gaza Strip. You know this. We speak about Israel, we think about a country where it's not cold, but of course it is cold. You may have even snow. You may have heard that last week some kids died of hypothermia. Okay? You know, we are speaking about the 21st century. And the health sector has been particularly targeted. I mean, all the infrastructures in Gaza have been targeting when we speak about water supply, electricity. But of course, when you bomb an hospital, you know what are the consequences with the number of people which are them. And we have been counting at least 800 attacks which have been directly targeting health facilities, and around 200 targeting medical transport, ambulances, let's say, if we want to call. There was a lot of detention of doctors. I mean, this we have seen even in the press sometimes when a doctor was freed or whatever. So, and almost 1,000 medical people have been killed, medical workers in the Gaza Strip. So, when we speak about injury, we are speaking about more than 2,000. And again, this is a game changer for all of these people because they may not be seriously and in a condition to be evacuated, for instance, but they may have lost their leg, their arm. They've been, you know, I mean, and this is something that they will get for their entire life. Now we are very, very concerned by. I mean, every day is a new surprise for us, but you may have heard that Israel has decided now to block the work of international NGOs. So already 37 of them have been asked to quit, to leave, basically, Israel. Let's be clear. Most of our partners, and we are speaking about a lot of the people that we are funding, are still present in Gaza with their national staff. So they will not quit. This is national staff. But it means that people from outside, international staff, will not be able anymore to enter. I mean, if you take a very clear example, Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, will not be able to work anymore in a month's time. They are in charge of 6 hospitals in Gaza, with not 10 beds. We are speaking about 400 beds. So we are very much concerned by this. We are also very much concerned, and Maria mentioned it, by the fact that medical supplies cannot enter the Strip because it is blocked at the borders in El Arish and so on. And again, when we speak about medical, if it's medical equipment, it's fine, it's fine. It means that if one day it enters, it's fine. When we speak about medicines, they will perish at one stage. What do? We paid for this. It will not be used, and then we will have certainly to pay for the destruction of the medicines, because as we know, medicines, as you do, I suppose, everywhere in Europe, you bring back your medicines to your pharmacy because you cannot put it in the bin. So all of this is also have an enormous impact, and it has an impact also on the solidarity, not only from the EU with what we have been paying, but also from the solidarity of the member states, which have been sending items to this. So I think this is very important. Despite all of these concerns, our partners are continuing working. But not at the scale it should be. Let's be very clear. To close, because I know we are to be conscious of the time. Of course, the medical assistance is part of the overall assistance, and everything is linked. And don't forget, it's, if a medical assistance is also possible only if you have fuel, if you have electricity, if you have potable water, if you have food, because meaning that people are not on top having problems because they are under malnourished. So basically the overall response that we need to provide has to be very comprehensive. So voila, I will conclude with this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words. It seems to me that the day becomes grayer and grayer as further are we in that issue. Let me remind you that among the doctors who did not survive were all plastic surgeons in the Gaza Strip, so there is no one plastic surgeon left alive in the Gaza Strip, and this is necessary for the on-site treatment, which is the second part of our discussion. But now I'm very proud to announce the Secretary of State, Dr. Raed Arafat from Romania. Romania is one of the countries Europe shall be proud on because this country has taken lots of patients from the Gaza Strip. Dr. Arafat, Honorable Secretary of State, I'm very happy that you are joining us, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm going just to say what we are doing, a few numbers, and thank you for organizing this meeting. Many of the issues related to the evacuation were already mentioned by my colleagues from DG ECHO. So I will go to what Romania is doing. We already did 11 missions of evacuation of sick children, injured or with other diseases like cancer or other diseases that need care in advanced facilities that do not exist anymore in Gaza. So we started the first mission on the 30th of September 2024. The last one was done on the 8th of December 2025. We succeeded to bring 416 persons, out of which 116 children and 300 relatives, where many of them are still children amongst the relatives. Now, out of the 416, 201 remained in Romania. That's 54 children and 147 relatives, whilst the others were, together with the ERCC and with other countries, we either moved them ourselves or with the support of other countries like Slovakia, which offered a transport airplane from Romania to other places like France, Norway. And we moved patients to France, Norway, Belgium, Albania, Greece, Malta, Luxembourg, Spain, Turkey, and the Netherlands. And so the other part of the 416 were moved to these countries. Romania is continuing to do this, but you can imagine this is a drop in the ocean. The organization behind is very complex. It involves, of course, the ERCC, the WHO, the COGAT on the Israeli side, but also when we talk about our country, it involves the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Health. It involves the high level of the government, the approval of the Prime Minister, the President, which we have them all the time. We didn't have any issues with this. And now we are planning for a new mission on the 9th of February if we have the patients and we have the agreements on the patients that we are going to take and where they are going. So we are continuing on this. Now, so what I want to underline before going to the next issue is that this is a huge effort on the level of the EU and especially the European Civil Protection Mechanism and the ERCC, on the level of the WHO, on the level of the Palestinian organizations that are supporting this transfer, like the Palestinian Red Crescent, and of course on approvals that we get from the COGAT side, from the Israeli side. Now, the question is, whether this is the only solution or there is better solution, which is to treat there. And here I want to underline what was said. The health sector in Gaza needs to be rebuilt. What we are offering at this moment is for a very small number of sick patients or injured patients. And I think that the needs, and according to the numbers we know, are much larger than this. There are huge numbers that need healthcare.
Right.
So I would divide this into two levels. There is a level which can be sorted out on the site, in the nearby areas, if we rebuild the health sector there and we support treatment on the site. And there is, of course, the situation of cases which may need much more complex treatment, and maybe for these cases we can continue doing the medevacs and bringing them to Europe and to countries which can treat them, like it was mentioned, the UAE and other countries that are doing this. So at this moment, as I said, we have the green light to continue in Romania from the top levels. We are working on this continuously with the ERCC. But of course, more involvement would be very helpful to get more children for treatment, or more injured for treatment, more patients for treatment that need advanced medical care outside of the area. I would stop here, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them, because I have to catch an airplane, and this is why I will leave this meeting once I see if there are any questions or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we especially wanted to thank you personally for all what you have done, and you are the pride of Europe in this regard, so thank you. I think we have to...
Thank you very much.
We will continue with our discussion. If there's any question left, which would be especially only be answered by you, we will send it per email and forward that to you. So thank you very much, and have a good journey. Have a safe journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now it comes to the other side of this problem, the question, are we able to do treatment on site in Gaza Strip? Because imagine you have 20 to 30,000 patients which might need a companion to travel abroad for treatment in case of children or even in adults. That would be a movement of migration into the European Union which could be avoided. And it could be avoided not only because we wish it could be avoided, it could be avoided because there are still enough facilities in the Gaza Strip who could treat these patients. There are still enough orthopedic surgeons, trauma surgeons to treat the patients, because we have to be aware the patients who survived so far this military violence are patients who are mainly suffering from extremity injuries, from limb injuries. And the major question is how to treat them. And if you want to do an orthopedic operation, a trauma operation for an injured limb like an arm or the legs, you need certain things. You need an anesthetist. You need narcotic drugs. You need antibiotics. You need implants. You need equipment for intraoperative X-rays to do this. Principally, those things are all available, but not inside Gaza. They are available in containers outside Gaza, which are not let to be brought inside Gaza because of the double-use character of those things. Each item which consists of metal is not allowed in the moment to enter the Gaza Strip, because of you might use this for any other than medical use. We have tried to find a way to we have tried to find those materials in the containers, and as you mentioned before, this Cyprus medical civilian corridor, starts in Limassol and was planned to end at the coastline of the Gaza Strip. This harbor was destroyed by some weather conditions, and the containers in Limassol and the containers around the entry to the Gaza Strips are containing medical equipment which would be necessary for medical treatment. Do we have our next speaker, Dr. Azam, on the screen? Dr. Groom on the screen? Then I wanted to introduce you to my colleague, my surgical colleague and friend, Graham Groom from London, and consultant, orthopedic and trauma surgeon who was more than 40 times in the Gaza Strip since October 23. He was not allowed to enter the Gaza Strip recently in December. He was accompanied by a plastic surgeon, also from London, to do this complex limb reconstruction, which is necessary in about 20 to 30,000 patients in the Gaza Strip. Graeme, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Graeme, I'm so pleased to have you here. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I do very much. Thank you for having me. I very, very much wish I was there in person. I'm now on my third device, from desktop to laptop to mobile. If I could just say that in addition to being an orthopedic surgeon based in London, I'm also co-chair of a small charity, Ideals, and we've been active in Gaza since 2009. And our objectives intensively since the 51-day war in 2014 have been treatment, training, building capacity and delivering equipment. And we've had some success in that, but we've always been, unlike many NGOs, we've been absolutely embedded in the Palestinian system, and we've had some success. So we were going to stop. We were going to draw the project to a halt as finished in September 2023, which was bad timing. Since the war has begun, our little charity has had 26 planned missions, of which 21 have been successful. I personally have been 4 times, and I have been denied a further 3 times. I've been very interested to listen to the discussion because absolutely everything we have heard has been very much at the forefront of what we've been doing. First of all, the number of casualties. They are absolutely inconceivably large. All I would say about my impression of the discussion to date is that it's been very calm, measured, and free of passion, which does not, in my view, adequately reflect 72,000 dead and 170-odd thousand injured. And it's the injured with which we have been mostly involved with our Palestinian colleagues. So as far as we're concerned, it's not really a war. It's mass murder and mutilation. And so that's the different perspective of somebody and all my friends and colleagues who have been in Gaza these last 2 years. So in terms of the immediate practicalities, the first one for an orthopedic surgeon is equipment. I was interested to hear or to see the route for equipment entering Gaza. Now, we are trying to exploit, and we're grateful to the EU for it, the route via Brussels to El Arish, and then from El Arish through across the border to WHO, where we could potentially collect it. We've been exploring that route for a year. So far, we've had no equipment. The notion that there is a ceasefire is, of course, quite frankly, ludicrous. The language is Orwellian. There is a ceasefire enforced by bombs and bullets. One of my immediate colleagues from our organization, with whom we spoke yesterday, was talking about the bombing the day before yesterday, when 31 people were killed and a large number were injured. She personally dealt with 2 pregnant women, both injured with fragments in their abdomen and 1 in the head. Both lost their babies. She spoke of a 2-year-old child with chest injuries in intensive care and a 5-year-old child who was quadriplegic from a fragment injury in the neck. And it may have been a blessing, but we heard this morning that that child has died. And that, of course, adds to the overall horror, which I do not think is adequately reflected in the debate I have heard. There is a wonderful Norwegian artist who has produced an installation of hanging drapes which have on them pinned labels of every one of the 18,459 children who were killed between the 7th of October 2023 and the 31st of July 2025. And if I sound emotional, it's because many of them have been across our operating table. I'm not sure, Jan, whether you showed the picture of the 7-year-old girl who had had both legs blown off above the knee. That particular child, at a very personal level, fills me with shame. And she fills me with shame because, unless I look at my records, I can remember nothing about her. In any other circumstance, I would remember everything. I would remember her name, the circumstances in which she was, wounded. I could remember who else was injured with her. But for her, this poor little 7-year-old girl was just the next in a conveyor belt of mutilated meat crossing our operating tables. Now, I'd be very happy to talk to you about the food, the fuel, the medicines, of which a great number are at what the Ministry of Health calls zero stock, which means there aren't any. I could talk to you about our colleagues who are hugely impressive. Many of them live in these flimsy, improvised shelters on the beach, and they're exposed to the elements, to the rain and the wind. And yet every morning they turn up washed, clean, and smiling. I have the greatest respect for them, and I fully support, I fully second the notion that they are the ones whom we should be helping, but they are doing our work for us. And it is a real privilege to stand with people like that in times of terrible trouble. In terms of dual-use items, you may know that tents are classified as dual-use items because they have poles. Things change so that it's quite difficult to keep track of what is allowed and what isn't. There is, if you like, a trickle feed. There is a little bit more food, a little bit more to absolutely nothing to meet the to meet the present need. I was very interested in the issue of evacuation, that 1,500 patients have been evacuated out of 18,500. When the focus is on evacuating the wounded for treatment elsewhere, that's equivalent to mopping the water up off the floor while the tap is still running, or to offering to help the burns while your friend pours petrol on the fire. I haven't heard anything about pressure to enforce the ceasefire, to stop killing people. And then, of course, we come across our colleagues who have been imprisoned within Israel. As part of our training projects, we have had 7 Palestinian fellows work with us in London, including 3 surgeons. The first one was called Adnan Bursh. He returned to Gaza. He was working as an orthopedic surgeon. He was arrested just before Christmas in 2023, and he was killed in Ofa prison on the 19th of April, 2024. We have heard about the healthcare workers who've been killed and imprisoned in a way that is distant and dispassionate. For us, they are our colleagues and friends. We have other colleagues and friends who are currently imprisoned, and we greatly fear that they will follow the same, they will suffer the same fate. So there we have it. What are we asking? From our point of view, we're asking, first of all, that the bombs stop. It is frankly ludicrous for respected authorities to describe the situation as a ceasefire just because slightly fewer people are being killed and mutilated each day. And I think we should be absolutely open and clear about that. I think the gates should be opened. It is barbaric in the 21st century that people are starving to death within walking distance of a mountain of food. I was last there in May, and I visited the malnutrition clinic and saw these little scraps of humanity clinging to life. Since we left, I've been in touch with a pediatrician who was looking after them. Half of them have died, and some of them have been evacuated. We need food. We need shelter. There needs to be either electricity or fuel for the generators. Our colleagues should be allowed to return to Gaza. They should be released from the Israeli jails and returned to help the patients. These are things which we should not try to work with. They're things that, in our view, we should demand that they happen, and that if they don't, we would very much hope that what we call the Western liberal democracies would insist upon and apply pressure that they did. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Believe me, we are not calm. We are here to be loud, and we are here to be heard. Thank you very much for your impression. The next planned speaker would be Dr. Azam from Jordan. He hasn't got any internet, or his internet was cut off, so we can't have him here. This is a pediatric surgeon who has been working in Gaza as well as Dr. Groom, and he was asked to present us his impressions about what he has seen in Gaza. As he can't do that, Then I will take the last presentation, and I will need a presentation on PowerPoint, because the pictures and images have an unbelievable force. And I want to share with you some pictures. Yes? This is the 7-year-old girl Graham was talking about. Even me, as a neurosurgeon for 40 years in Germany, have not seen these things before. The next slide. This is one of 10 siblings who survived the bomb attack with multiple bone injuries of the pelvis, of the arm, and of the legs. The parents of this young boy are both medical doctors. One was killed in that bomb attack. What this young man survived, the mother was killed. The next one. This is the situation in an emergency room after a bomb attack in Gaza from 2025. And the next one. This is a European hospital in Gaza, in near close to Khan Yunis. This is a 232-bed hospital with a full care, which was finally constructed at the beginning of this century and funded by the European Union with 45 million euros. This hospital is mainly destroyed and out of work. Next slide. This is the pharmacy of the Nazar hospital after being hit by a bomb. You can imagine that in those hospitals, the treatment of patients is very difficult. But also, all that, there's still enough capacity to treat this limb reconstruction surgery if the doctors there would be supplied with medicine, implants, narcotics, and having the spare parts for the intraoperative X-ray, which is necessary to perform that. This is blocked. This is blocked, and the result of this blockade is that this treatment cannot happen. But it is principally possible that it happens in Gaza. So enough of these horrible pictures. This is what we wanted to present. We wanted to be loud. We wanted to show that medical evacuation is one side. The majority of the patients will have to be treated in the Gaza Strip. The capacity is there. It cannot happen because of the blockade. We have to raise our voice and we have to stand up. What we have done so far is writing all these letters. I'm fed up by writing letters which nobody answers. However, that obviously is the practice in the moment in the European Union, even within Germany. So we will start now the discussion. If there are some questions, we will answer these questions or try to answer these questions. But we are planning after this meeting here and being enforced by this meeting to write a letter to my colleagues in the Knesset to ask them for help, because a human being of the 21st century should not be able to tolerate that. Therefore, we are here. Thank you all for being here. And now, if there are any questions, please. Fabio, please.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Jan-Peter, first of all, for taking the initiative, which is, I think, highly needed. I just wanted to underline or to say that I absolutely understand that humanitarian aid organizations have to talk to any side. This is what we always advocated in any armed conflict, and I see it with great concern that there's also a political pressure in various conflicts, not only in this one, on humanitarian organizations to embed them politically or to choose one side. We have, as a party, I'm also a member of BSW delegation here in the European Parliament. We have always criticized the unproportionate military actions of Israel in this context. But I think what is particularly important is we had in the recent years, also in my country, in Germany, a lot of discussions about migratory pressures. And this is here where we can see the root of those issues. And if we don't facilitate on-site treatment, then I think we are not in a position to complain about some of the effects that we see. And this is why I really think it is needed that more parliamentarians here in the European Parliament raise their voices, because this is a very geopolitical charged subject. And we have always said that, of course, we also need emergency support, for example, for children that need to be treated. But I think the core of the solution is really to facilitate on-site treatment. And I think we stand ready to support any initiative in the European Parliament in that regard. And I just wanted to thank you for your relentless work. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Fabio. To erase reasons for migration is one of our backgrounds politically. The initiative is also taken because I cannot stay those situations and pictures as a medical doctor, and as I'm, as you know, very engaged part of this BSW delegation in our European Parliament. I'm an elected citizen, and I'm not a politician, and to be a doctor, I will be always a doctor for the rest of my life. So both aspects are very important, and we want to make that clear. The situation has to change. The blockade has to stop, and we have to take all initiatives which are possible and all ways which are possible to make this blockade to an end. So, thank you. Ruud Firmenich, member of our BSW European Parliament delegation. Ruud, please.
Thank you very much for the very impressive presentations from different angles. And I fully agree with everything that Fabio also said, that we really have to unite, try to bring change in order. It is in the interest of humanity. It's also in our own, very own interest of erasing the reasons for people to migrate. It's obvious that people do not want to stay in situations as they are. Like that, definitely, but there are other areas of the world where the situation is also a bit dire. I have a couple of questions concerning the echo representation, because I was not quite sure that I understood it correctly. Did I understand correctly that there is no person from ECHO working in Gaza at present? And I would like to know, what is the reason? Why was it closed? Was there pressure being put on the EU to close it by Israel? Was it a political decision to defer people from Gaza to other places? And are there any attempts to bring ECHO representatives back to Gaza? And what is your assessment why this is not taking place or taking place? And the other question is, you were saying there were 11, and we saw it on the screen that there were 11 member states who have taken on patients from Gaza. And from your presentation, Ms. Zuber, we could see that there is the request is being put from one, and then you distribute among the member states. And I would like to know if the lack of the other member states of the EU that have now taken on up patients has to do with a lack of interest on their part, or is there no willingness to take on patients? Has it to do with medical conditions that are being treated in one place and not in another? And if there is a development to bring patients also to the other countries, and what are the reasons for that? Because obviously the amount of patients that are being transferred to the EU is very small, naturally, but it could be a lot larger if all member states would equally participate. And then there is another question concerning the ban of the non-governmental organizations that was issued by Israel, and that is also affecting the medical organizations. Is there any pressure from the outside world on Israel to allow that back in, or to present justifications for what they're doing? Because obviously this is a tremendous factor that is deteriorating the dire situation even more. Thank you very much.
I think the first question is more for Beatrice, right?
Yeah, and the third one.
And the third one, and you the second. Okay.
So on the first one, basically, well, the way we work, we used to have always an office in East Jerusalem. So that was basically the official office with our expatriate staff. And we had an antenna in Gaza, together with staff. And we had one of the expatriate person spending at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks a month in Gaza, so before the 7th of October. With the event on the 7th of October, we have evacuated our staff for security reasons initially. It was just like because, we did, I think, I would call this a duty of care that any employers should have to evacuate the staff. And by the way, Dr. Arafat has also disappeared, but this was thanks to Dr. Arafat that first these two colleagues were basically initially going to Romania, and then we tried to find a place closer in the region, and this is where they were moved to Turkey and to Ankara. Since then, I don't know what is the latest date, but we have not been able to enter into Gaza. We have been refused to enter into Gaza. We had one exception, I think it was March last year, March 2025, where 3 of our colleagues, so the head of office in Jerusalem, together with a security colleague and an information officer colleague, went into Gaza together with UNICEF, which is a normal way of working for ECHO. We normally always go on mission with one of our partners. We asked all the authorization. We were given the authorization, but after that, it looks like Israel did realize that they had let us enter and that it would not happen anymore. Since then, we have been asking every 2 weeks to be able to enter into Gaza for many reasons. First, because we need to monitor what we are doing, and it's part of our accountability also. We are spending public taxpayer money, so we need to be able to monitor. One of the arguments also that we've been giving to Israel is that, you don't trust anyone, you don't trust the UN, you don't trust the NGOs, so why don't you let us go, because then we can check what is going on. but we have not been allowed, and our Director-General has been asking many times. Last time he went to Palestine, so last week or the week before, when he spoke to the Israeli authorities, that's the first time that we were not given as an excuse that we are semi-diplomats, which is basically not the case, because our colleagues in the field are not diplomats. They are just people who have worked in the past for NGOs or UN. We were told this time this is because of the threat of the sanction from the EU. Okay, so that there will be no movement, that they are very angry with Europe. And we are paying the price, and we will not get the authorization, which doesn't mean that we will not continue doing it. But so there is no other reason so we didn't close our office. It looks like it's still standing. Don't tell me it was like 2 months ago. Maybe this is not the case anymore, but we received even pictures from partners sending us pictures of our office, which was still standing, because we wanted also to allow other people to use it, like, for instance, the UN, if they were in need of offices. I don't know the state of play today, but because this is not our first concern. Our first concern is related to the third question that I will answer after.
So on different member states' engagement, definitely it's we in the ERCC, our competence is to support member states and coordinate. So obviously that is a decision that each member state takes on their own, and there might be different political reasons that they engage or not. For me, what I would like to highlight when it comes to Union Civil Protection Mechanism is that indeed European Union has 27 members, and they are in different places in Europe. They have different threats, different histories, and also don't forget that we are not doing only medevac from Gaza, but also from Ukraine. And some member states, including, I think, yours, or at least the chairs, yours, is very active on the other front. The fact that we relatively easily organized the medevac system from Gaza, together working with WHO, was because we had established this medevac system already 2 years before to evacuate injured and also the ones from Ukraine. So while on different foreign affairs councils, our masters, political masters, are calling upon all member states to step up the efforts of evacuation from Gaza, we also need to recognize that some member states, for geographical or political reasons, prefer to engage and take more patients from Ukraine. Now, currently, just to give you the numbers, and also this is also showing a bit the difference, we are almost at 5,000 patients evacuated from Ukraine. We are some years more into that effort. It's easier. It's It's easier given also the status of Ukrainian citizens in Europe. So that's easier. That facilitates. Dr. Arafat also was mentioning how difficult it is sometimes to get the political decision from Prime Minister level. When it comes to Ukrainian, it's also different level of, for example, EU funding, which is given to hospitals, and let's say all different allowances under the Protection Directive that was adopted. So there are different elements, but I think that could also explain some difference in member states. And just to mention pressure, I think there is pressure. I mean, we could shout louder, but I wanted to give you very easy, maybe homework, if you want to help this pressure. Our commissioner, every time there is a ceasefire that is broken, she will put on X or social media a message condemning that break of ceasefires. So it's just for you to share, to like, and to amplify this message. Very easy. Letters, we have meetings, as Beatrice said, our Director-General is going there. There is this continuous effort on all fronts to put pressure, and this pressure can be done in different forms. And then everyone needs to use the form that is possible for us to use. So for us, we are not the biggest politicians. The politicians can indeed make this message more public, but we can share, we can do that. And this is something that I would like you to engage, to tell you that. Beatrice mentioned that that indeed we are not able to enter because indeed the Commission proposed a suspension of certain benefits under association agreement. It has not been adopted formally because we know member states are divided into their political things, but already this shows that already this Israel treats as a pressure, and this has negative consequences. So it's a very difficult policy, let's say, area when we are talking. So I just would like to explain that it's always not always so black and white. There's different reasons, and from our side, we will always respect member states' decisions. And the only thing that what we do from our side, from the ERCC side, is to support them in the way where they put their efforts in assisting different countries in the world in different situations. You can also see, you might remember, Crans-Montana early this year. In this case, very close to our hearts as well, and geographically, 24 member states immediately offered assistance to evacuate Bern. So, again, different realities. We need to respect that, and we advocate all the time for everything, but it's true that member states need to make that decision.
So if I can complement a bit on the pressure and on the ban of international NGOs, this is, I think, since at least May, June last year that we are speaking about this, and trying all in every single message we are passing. So when it comes to pressure, bearing in mind what I said at the beginning, in particular for ECHO, the need to remain neutral to a certain extent. Maria mentioned, I think our commissioner is the most vocal one. But what we are trying to do, and this is something that we are particularly aiming at, is also to have more joint communication from not only our commissioner, but also with the HRVP Callas and with Commissioner Switcha, because let's not forget that for the time being, development in Gaza, you can forget about it. But the day, potentially, hopefully, there will be peace and there will be a need to not only for reconstruction, but for support for development. That will be very important that everybody is able to work. I cannot mention to you, when it comes to pressure, what our motto is, it has to be evidence-based. So we need to speak on facts, because otherwise we are reproached immediately, and I can tell you at the minute we have a statement, there is a reaction from Israel every time. You said that you are fed up with writing letters. I can tell you that I'm fed up in writing statements and tweets, okay? But we need to use all the tools we have in hand. So this is one. Always be on the scene, always be putting a statement. The most recent one was, I think, for the destruction of the UNRWA infrastructure. Yesterday, I went at the inauguration of the UNRWA photo exhibition in La Bourse. I encourage you all to pass by because it will be there for a month. The speech of the Burgmaster of Brussels, plus Philippe Lazzarini, plus the Commissioner, you cannot be more vocal. Okay, that's the words were used, everything was used, but we need to be listened to. And working with Israel is definitely not the easiest. One, we are. I said at the beginning, we are keeping this channel, not only, of course, when we are in Brussels with the embassy, but of course at field level. Not only when we go on mission, but also our colleagues. We are in a daily contact with COGAT, and then we use our colleagues from the delegation, both in Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv, to speak to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We are part of the famous CMCC, the famous Civil and Military Center, which has been put in place by the Americans, that we don't exactly know what will happen now that we are supposed to be in the second phase of the peace plan, where you have the Board of Peace and all these things. It looks like the CMCC will stay to monitor still a little bit what is going on the humanitarian situation. We are every day present in this meeting to brief, but because it's important also to brief the Americans in that respect, because the Americans are playing the big game for the time being. So The more we try to get them into our systems, the better. But let's be clear, we are not always speaking the same language, but we are continuing. We will not give up, because I think this is what people are expecting, that we give up. And I heard the words of Dr. Groom saying maybe we are not passionate enough. I cannot afford. When I'm passionate, I'm crying on this crisis. And it has happened to me many times in meetings with member states, for instance. You know, you have testimony and then you use even, I would never use pictures, but I use stories. It affects you as a person, but and again, we cannot fail. We have to stand for our principles. We have to stand for the support. This is what the Palestinians need. They don't need me to cry. They need me to try to do something. So this is what we're trying to do. The impact, as you can see, is not enormous, but if we give up, it will be even easier. So we are trying, but of course we need support. As Maria mentioned, it's very important that it, and to be frank, also I think that the mobilization of our civil society in Europe has been also very much helping. I mean, nobody can ignore thousands of people in the streets. But I mean, I cannot be the one doing this. But it's very important because you feel supported. I mean, last week we met with some NGOs who told us, and that was not the objective of our statement and tweets, are to have an impact on the measures which are put in place. But we got as a feedback from our partners, you know what? Without your statement, we would feel fully abandoned. It helps us continue working. So, voilà, it's also sometimes simple things, but step by step, like the European construction.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thomas, please, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing this extremely important event. When it comes to pressure, I mean, of course, clearly in this parliament, there are different opinions. You know, on this war, some people call it a genocide, others would not call it a genocide. There's different attitudes with regard to Israel. What I wonder is, I mean, there are some basic things I guess everybody should be able to agree on. I mean, one thing is, I mean, that Israel is now banning activities of Médecins Sans Frontières, of Ärzte ohne Grenzen. I mean, I think this is just obviously, I mean, we're talking here, this has nothing to do with how you evaluate this war, how you judge the behavior of the IDR and so on and so forth, but this is just, I would say, a prerequisite for every sort of civilized behavior, let's put it this way. Or even, you know, what Dr. Groom said about this definition of dual use. I mean, if basically every medical equipment is considered a dual use item, I mean, I guess, I mean, then we're really aggravating a humanitarian disaster. So I would just think, you know, I mean, we should be able, even in this parliament where there are very different opinions, but there is just some common ground of the essentials of, you know, what is civilized behavior. And therefore, I guess, I mean, this is something, I'm not a big fan of sanctions, to be honest. But I guess, I mean, we should clearly say to Israel, I mean, you cannot be part of a Horizon program as long as you basically really challenge or basically disregard, I mean, very basics of you know, civilized behavior. And this is just these two examples. I mean, clearly it needs to be allowed that medical equipment gets into the Gaza Strip, and clearly an organization like Médecins Sans Frontières, which is beyond any doubt not partial and which is apolitical, which is simply a humanitarian organization. I mean, they should be allowed into the Gaza Strip. Otherwise, I don't see any basis of cooperating with a country like that that would not, you know, recognize these very basic principles.
Thomas, you are summarizing the whole catastrophe in good words. I mean, I always ask myself what this dual-use things really means, because when we talk to doctors, and we have done this in preparation of that meetings working in Gaza, who destroyed their cell phones afterwards and get new ones, they told us even a blank piece of paper is considered as dual-use good, because you could write something on it what the opposite side does not like. And as a surgeon, I'm very practical, so I will be prepared to stay at the border of Gaza Strip and check up the containers together with Michael von der Schulenburg and see what could be used for any military use. And I know that even scalpels are now disposables without metal and still in use, so that we have to be more practical on that side. So I think we do agree. I'm very grateful to all the contributions to Grammy Groom's, to Dr. Arafat's, and to your both presentations, which show me that we are pulling the same string. And as much as I can, and as much as my colleagues from the BSW fraction in the European Parliament regards, we are supporting whatever you do, and we will not stop. We will not stop to work on it, because giving up is no option. This is what I took from you. We slowly... Yeah. Okay. Questions? Please.
I have a question regarding the reunification of the families, because the suffering doesn't stop when the people are evacuated for medical reasons. So just curious what is happening. I mean, because not the whole families are allowed to leave Gaza when they are evacuated, and their families are suffering because they cannot live together and they cannot meet. And I'm very curious what is happening and how Europe responded to this crisis. I didn't hear so much about it. Even I was searching and documented. I tried to find out, but no official data regarding this problem.
There are different degrees of spreading news in the world, and this is an issue where the news are not so well spread, believe me. But your question probably should be answered by Maria.
Yes. I think we are trying to evacuate as many family members as possible when it comes to medical evacuations. Initially, the line was just one, just female, just over 50 or 60. We managed to push, and currently the patients, you've seen the numbers, there were 400 patients and over 1,000 companions. So actually we managed to have many more companions. So if there is a pediatric patient, normally this person goes with parents, with the siblings as well. And this is something where we are encouraging, and we also are advocating member states to allow these bigger groups to come, because indeed it's not only the disease itself or the injury, but it's also the whole sociological state and well-being of the patient and the family. Now, for additional evacuations of family members, so indeed family reunification, we know that some member states also do it. This is a national competence when it comes to migration policy. This is something that we as ERCC are not doing, because we are emergency response operations, so we respond to the life-threatening events. In this particular case, again, in the broader context, yes, but it's not immediate. So this is something that I'm not reporting, because we are not, it's not under the mechanism. That doesn't mean that it does not happen, and we know of countries that are doing it, and they are doing it simply out. Within the competences that the EU has, we don't have the competence to coordinate that, but there are countries that do.
Can you tell which countries do it or succeeded?
Yeah, I think it's Italy, Spain, I think Ireland as well, Romania. So there are countries that are doing it. From those that you've seen on the list, definitely there would be the ones that will, the ones that are on the top of the list that are evacuating. They are also open on later, also bringing the families.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I just want to say all the facts, data and numbers you talked about, also Mr. Groom and Mr. Arafat talked about. So the question is, so what? Because Israel, the reality is Israel doesn't care. Israel give a shit about that. So what I mean, you can put so much effort, money in the support, but nothing will happen because Israel destroys and block all the support. Also, there are European countries who still support Israel with money, with weapons. So for me, it's a joke. It's like you're joking around because you try, and there are still countries who are standing behind Israel. So, as you said, you are just a drop in the ocean. The question is how we can be, to be funny, the tsunami in the ocean. I have a solution. I think we should build a European army to bring them to Gaza, West Jordanland, and this army should support the people. And if Israel still doesn't respect them or try to attack, so you have to attack back because this is the only language Israel understands. And as long as you just talk and try and be just puppets of the United States or Israel, nothing will happen. We just talk. Thank you.
Oh, well, Graham, you want to respond? Graham? Are you there? Is Graham there? Okay, while we try to connect him, maybe you might answer.
Yeah, well, very quickly. Well, first, I don't think that what we do, I mean, Maria mentioned a drop in the ocean when speaking about medical evacuation. But I don't think we are a drop in the ocean when we are supporting humanitarian aid in Gaza for the 2 million people who are there. And let's be clear, humanitarian aid is not about bringing a political solution and bringing the long-term solution. It's about having people surviving, if possible, this disaster and in a more dignified way. I fully agree. This is not enough, and for sure this is not enough. But I will not enter into all the other political considerations. But for me, Gaza is one crisis where we have confronted to many difficulties, but this is not the only one. We should not forget that we are confronted now to, I don't know how many conflicts in the world. There are some of them which are less visible. If you speak about Sudan, for instance, where you have almost 20 million people displaced. I mean, this is not in the news every day. And we are also trying to do something there. We are supposed to be there waiting for political solutions, but it's not in our hands, the political solutions. When I said we are speaking to the Americans, we are speaking to Israel, it's because we want to get rid of this problem of dual use. When I met with the Israeli army back in July, I told them, well, I've been told that incubators for babies are dual use. Give me a break. I mean, that's not possible. Okay, so this is where we try to, again, to discuss. I'm not saying, again, as this I said it very frankly, I'm not saying that we have a big impact, but we need to continue trying because maybe a small victory can also help. But yeah, we cannot do miracles for sure.
And just on the drop in the ocean, yes, the numbers are drop in the oceans, but I would not call it a joke. If you save one life, it's an eternity and it's a whole family. It's really a life, so it's not a joke. It's a full life, and there are 400 lives that we've saved. So even that it's small, everything counts. So please do not call our work a joke.
And I do not agree with your proposal because violence as an answer on violence will set a spiral of violence, and it is never the solution. Any other questions? Graham. Oh, Graham.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I would just like to make 3 points which are
It has to do with the Brexit, I think.
sort of related to that. The first is that I do find it rather, but I
This is probably too sad, but I mean, the Brexit, is it a joke? No. Whether it has to do with that, but violence is never the solution. I want to repeat that. And I don't want to get you to have the impression that this event is on making violence as a solution. So I do not agree with that. And there's another question in the back. Yeah, please.
Thank you. It's just a short practical question about time issues in the whole process of evacuation. Ms. Zuber, you described the whole process from request until clarification. And I'm just wondering, how long does it take? I mean, these are concerning urgent cases. People who are injured, who must get treatment like immediately. And how long does it take to get these people evacuated? And are you facing denials? Like how many denials you are facing, and how many people don't get the chance to get evacuated? Thank you.
Look, there's a process that we improved, because at the beginning that was more complicated, and we explained that there was a lot of ministries that would need to be involved. I think the countries that already are doing it for next time, it's always quicker. So on average 2 weeks for whole process, but it could be done also within, I think here my colleague whispered that we had a record of 2 days, so it can be done very quickly. On COGAT's clearance, yes, not everyone gets clearances, but we resubmit. We don't give up, we resubmit, and we had cases that when we resubmitted the profile, the person could be evacuated later. So, and this also improved. So at the beginning we had more denials than now. They are happening, and then again we are pushing.
We try again, Graham. It's your floor now.
Thank you. I'm very sorry about the connections. I think the key thing in that context is that local capacity for treatment should be supported. Now, there's a common perception that the medical facilities in Gaza have been destroyed. Well, there's been extensive damage, but they do not need to be replaced. By far the most cost-effective solution is for the existing facilities to be supported, to be re-equipped. Can I just also say there is a common perception that the field hospitals, which have been introduced by many NGOs, are a solution. They're not a solution in the sense that their capacity is far too low. A field hospital is a military concept, and it depends on a line of evacuation which simply does not exist in Gaza. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the Palestinian authorities, the Ministry of Health, estimate that the 6 field hospitals surrounding the Nasser hospital have together the capacity of only one department within the NASA hospital. And the third thing is that none of the field hospitals, certainly when I was there in May, had oxygen generating capacity. So none of them could have an intensive care bed. In contrast, a relatively small investment in medicine and equipment and the stuff that has been destroyed either by bombing or deliberately during occupation, that would be by a distance the most effective thing. The second thing is that I haven't heard any reference today about the attacks on UNRWA. UNRWA, you may know, provides the majority of the primary health care for the refugees in Gaza, the majority of education, and the majority of food. So if you remove UNRWA, then you put the population at risk. And our perception of this recent deregistration of so many NGOs is that it will have a similar effect to the attack on UNRWA. I'm sure everybody is aware that the requirements for registration breached the general data protection rules, which apply in the UK just as they apply in Europe. So it's actually impossible for the NGOs operating in Gaza to submit to the Israeli requests and remain within European law. At least that's to the best of my knowledge. The final thing I would say, and this is deeply uncomfortable, is that the Palestinians are terribly aware of the assistance given to Ukraine and the number of Ukrainian wounded who are treated throughout Europe. And their view, expressed to me multiple times, is that Europe accepts patients from Ukraine but not from Gaza because Palestinians are browner than Ukrainians. That is a deeply uncomfortable thing for me to hear, because I associate. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. I think this is now a political statement that each life matters, regardless where from. So
correct.
We have to make that clear. Okay. He was already so. Oh, yes, sir. So.
Mein Englisch ist nicht so gut. Darf ich auf Deutsch die Frage stellen?
Well, I'll try to translate that, yeah.
Ich weiß, dass zur Menschenwürde auch die eigene wirtschaftliche Grundlage zählt.
I know that economic subsistence is also important for human dignity. And is it possible to feel dignified as a human being? Can you still have economic basis?
I didn't get the end. I didn't get the end of the transition because you were speaking.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. The question was, what is your impression about a private economic life in Gaza? Are you able to make some money to live on under the actual circumstances?
So that's quite complicated, but you would be very surprised to see that still it remains, and that's why also in terms of humanitarian assistance we are privileging, instead of giving food or of giving whatever items, to give cash, so that in particular people can buy into the market if the market exists, so meaning that the market is also with vendors, so which means that you continue trying to keep the economy alive. We have seen at the beginning of the crisis a lot of people, I mean, it's just incredible, moving their business or being with them, you know, when they were displaced. Now the problem is that most of the people have been displaced many times. It's not like once, it's maybe sometimes 7 times, but everybody is trying to keep, if they have a small business. But of course, It will need also linked to the destruction of some of the infrastructure. It's not easy. But I agree with you, any kind of assistance needs to be dignified. So if people can contribute and do part of the things themselves, it's always better. But of course, more support will be needed in the future. But still you have some life. Huh? You still have, again, the markets. Now that we are complaining about the fact that humanitarian aid is not entering into Gaza, but you have commercial trucks entering into Gaza, not always bringing what is very necessary, but still you have things which are entering and that people want to buy. So there is a kind of still economic life, but very, very low. Yeah.
I just want to interfere because I have forgotten to give you some information about how big is the Gaza Strip. Do you know this? It's 41 kilometers long and it is 12 kilometers broad. It has a surface which is compatible with the island of Usedom in the Baltic Sea in the north of Germany. And these are 365 square kilometers. The island of Usedom has 445 square kilometers in total. So we are talking basically about an area which is compatible with the island of Usedom. But 2.1 million people, this is the estimation of February 26, 2.1 million people are living there.
And if I may, we are speaking now, for the time being, of a plan of reducing by 50% the land, meaning to create a buffer zone where only 5% of the population would live, which means that 95% of the population would live in 50% of this Gaza Strip.
Okay. I just want to say that we have...
Sorry, just one question.
2 minutes left for one question.
Thank you very much for this incredible event. I would just like to follow up on the previous gentleman because there's an exhibition in Brussels actually also about the genocide and about the current context. And one of the things I learned there was that basically now in the whole Gaza Strip there is a sort of war economy where everything is incredibly expensive, where people have to pay thousands of euros for a small tent with holes in it. So just very briefly, I would like to ask how in this context of a war economy with incredible inflation, donations can be effective and how you can work in this context. Thank you.
What do you want me to answer? We are trying our best. We are aware, of course. This is very fluctuating. There were periods where indeed the prices were very high, and this is where maybe then we would go back to in-kind assistance. And then if, but you are always, this is a problem because everything has an impact. It's a kind of a circle. So if you provide more cash, you can expect people being more able to buy. So maybe at one stage the price will decrease. I'm not an economist, as you can see, but we have the partners have to adapt every time. I know we had sometimes some price for instance, for oil or for flour. All the things which are basic items for most of the population. Yeah. We have to compensate. When it's too expensive, we have to give it. When we cannot give it, we have to give cash, and then we can hope that the market will function. It's not easy. No, for sure.
Sorry, we can have discussion later, but officially wise, because we have booked translation until 2 p.m., I have to close the session. I do thank you very much for being here. Dear Grammy, thank you very much for joining us from London. Dr. Arafat already has left. I do thank you, my co-chairs here. Maria, thank you for being here. Thank you. Beatrice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So we won't give up, and I wish you a pleasant afternoon. See you this afternoon in the Parliament, and we see each other at the evening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are not loud enough. Yeah.
You had the best word of the day.